Hello, everyone. If you're wondering what are we doing today, is that we're going to have a new content for NetMinds this year. And we are very excited to share tips for all entrepreneurs on how to do business and how others have been doing business. So today I wanted to start with Cristian because he has a lot of experience with no-code tools. He built the MVP for NetMinds. And also he has experience with project management. So Chris, how are you?
Very good, Laura. Thank you so much. I mean, I'm more than happy to share some of the insights and the tips for developing your first MVP. For everyone who is starting this journey of being an entrepreneur, I know how difficult it is to try to understand everything that is related to entrepreneurship.
I feel a little bit weird with making this interview in English because, of course, we both work in Spanish and all, but it's fine. It's just to share our experience. Okay, Chris, so I want to start digging a little bit about your project management experience. And part of it is understanding and telling others what's the most challenging thing or the set of challenges that you have whenever you are managing a project.
Well, actually, this is something that is common in every setting when you're building a project, not just for entrepreneurship, but for anything else. And it's that as a project manager, you need to have a very strategical view of everything related to what you're building. So the part related to the humans, the part related to the design, to the technology, to the support, to customers. So one of the most challenging parts is first to understand or to have an initial understanding or a basic understanding of each one of the subjects for you to be able to speak to every stakeholder, at least in a similar level, right? But also because each one of those stakeholders has a different mindset and a different type of even terminology. So it's very important for you not to have that knowledge, that understanding, but also to be very aware on how to speak to each person and how to direct each one of those aspects.
Now that we have spoken about the challenges, what are the tips that you could provide for people to overcome those challenges? Of course, you a little bit said that, but it's more like, what are the tools or what are sort of like the suggestions to be able to overcome those challenges?
So I guess I will say it's in two different things, like, or two elements. One is more personal and one is more in the professional sense, right? So in the personal sense is how you build empathy, right? To really understand and really put yourself in the position of others. So for example, relating to the technical part, right? So whenever you're trying to build something, and maybe for example you're in marketing or you're the designer, you're obviously thinking about what you want the client to see, right? But when you want to translate that into something, a technical product, right? You need to understand not only what the client is going to see, but also you need to understand how to explain that to the person who is going to develop it. For example, the technical person, right? So for that, and that connects to the professional part, right? It's very important for you not just to know what the product is going to look like, but also how it works behind it, right? So for example, in our case, being non-technical founders, and when I was a project manager in IT projects, I had to learn at least the basics on software architecture, on what is a stack, what is a back end, what is a front end, right? So it's very important. You don't have to become an expert, like the most expert person in how to build a software, right? But at least you need to understand how a person who is technical thinks, like for you to relate to them. But also it's very important that you at least take some time to understand how all of that works, at least to be able to read a software architecture and understand, okay, these are pieces that are connecting to each other, right? And if you have that basic understanding, you have two amazing tools there. One, that you're going to be able to talk to anyone in the startup ecosystem, anyone in the software ecosystem. And two, and that's the thing that we learn through our entrepreneurship journey, you're going to be able to build something for yourself using no code and low code tools, right? Maybe the scope is not the same when you are a software engineer. Maybe you have something that you can do, but there are things with no code and low code that you can build, and it's just amazing. And to at least have that view and at least have that understanding is gonna allow you to build a lot of amazing things that you couldn't imagine before.
Yeah, and now that you're saying that, one of the reasons why I wanted to speak about project management is because us and entrepreneurs, we are project managers. Like it's just natural. Like it's not your role. Like it's not like you got that job. It's just like you're starting something, you're managing your project. And I think it's very interesting what you said regarding having the vision and having the understanding of the different parts of the project, and then be able to communicate with others on how to build it. And one thing that was kind of like coming into my mind is you were speaking a lot about the team and having empathy with speaking with others. But when you're very small in an early stage, the team, it's like yourself, or some other times your co-founder. Like in this case, it's just the two of us. So how from your experience was challenging or was like a learning lesson to be like, okay, how do you manage a project when you don't have anyone to manage, right?
Yes, and I guess, I mean, going back to talking about two tips or two insights, right? So one thing is you're not alone, like really alone, right? So it's very important to leverage the network or the people that you have met along the journey, right? So I guess when you're in a corporation or in a business, you always know who to approach to ask for something. You ask your leader, or you go to the leader of another department, right? But when you are a founder, or you have or two or three co-founders, you just have each other, and you don't have the answer. You're like, okay, what else can I do,
Yeah.
right? So I think a huge part of this is how you leverage the network that you have, right? And how you start asking those people how to build it, how to do it, right? But also, I mean, you really need to understand, you go to them for some direction, for some insight and some advice, right? And it's not just one person. I mean, maybe if you have something about software development, you have two or three people who know about that. So you go to them, you ask the question, and you get the direction. If it's about marketing, you go to someone on marketing, right? So it's very important to have that network and to be able to build that network and to have the different people to go to. But even if you have that person, is how you use them and how do you approach them, right?
Right, going back to the empathy that you were saying, but it's not necessarily your in-house team, but it's your world team.
Exactly. And I think that's an amazing concept. Is the work can
Yeah.
be your team. It's not just the two or three co-founders, but at least for us, it feels that way. For example, in
Yeah,
NetMinds,
yeah,
right?
and something we speak a lot with NetMinds, and I'm glad that you're bringing it from the project manager side of things.
Exactly, because that's how it feels. It feels like we have a team of 15 or 20 people, two for software development, three for marketing. Like, it's like having that team, that people you rely on, that you can ask questions whenever you have that problem, right? So I think it's very important to leverage that network, but also when you're going to approach them, and going back to what I was saying about having the basic understanding, right? So it's very important for you also to learn a lot from those interactions, but also to understand what to take from those interactions, right? So for example, if we're going to someone to talk about how to build a product for software development, uh, it's very important for you to at least understand the basics of what is a backend and a front end, because if not, it's gonna be very difficult to have the conversation. So it's not just about having the network, but also about learning and understanding who to approach with each type of challenge that you have, and then how to ask the question.
I want to move now a little bit from the project management side of things to the no code
Mm-hmm.
and building projects with no code. Because I mean, you're a project manager, no with a humane team, but also with a technical team. But like that are all the tools that you find online, and you kind of like
Exactly.
mix and match them together. So what are some of the tips or the most important things that a co-founder or someone that is developing something with no code has to consider when starting to use no code?
There are two things that you need to understand about no code.
Right.
And the first one, no code and low code, right? I'm gonna explain a little bit about the difference. But the first thing that you need to understand is there is too many tools. I mean, there is thousands of tools for each type of thing that you need to do, right? So it's very important to start choosing some of them from the beginning, right? So you need to accommodate to them, or you need to find the one that you feel most comfortable with, right? And you don't have to guess that much or think that much about which one to use, right? Even if you, for example, you have 5 tools that you can use, you can just go through them and you're gonna choose one of them and just stick with that, right? Because as I was saying, there are too many tools and each one has a specific purpose, but it's not just about picking the right tool, but also about learning all the capabilities and all the scope of each one of them and learning how to use them. So actually, one of the things that maybe I made a mistake at the beginning, and I will advise you not to make the same mistake, right, is that at first I had a lot of doubts about which one to use, for example, for doing the automation, right? So what I started doing was I subscribed to 3 or 4 of those tools, and I went a lot of weeks on just understanding each one of them. Each one of them actually served my purpose. It was more about focusing on one of them and becoming a master on one of them. I think here the insight is, first, you need to pick one tool for each one of the segments that you need to build. So whenever you're building something in no code, you need something that is front end, what the customer is going to see. You need something to automate and to integrate and orchestrate everything behind the backend, right? And you need a database, right? So those 3 main tools, right? It's very important that you pick one for each one of those. Don't try to go at the beginning. Don't try to go, oh, I'm gonna have 5 for front end to test with them for a month and then pick one of them. You're gonna get very confused. At least it was like that for me. It's just go with one of them, with one for front end, and start learning about it. Just 2 or 3 days, go and experiment, build something, destroy it. Do it again, right? So it's very important for you to pick at least one tool for each one of the features that you need. But then after you pick that tool, start learning about it. And it's very easy online these days. I mean, YouTube has been an amazing tool for me.
Yeah, I think as an entrepreneurs, that's why we're called hustlers, because we're sort of like all around taking all the tools that we have and the people, and then just sort of like digging in and seeing what serves our purpose and what can we use. And that's certainly something that it's a skill as well to develop, because at the beginning you don't really know where to look. And I think that has been one of my learnings as well. Well, Chris, thank you very much. Just to finish this interview, which it's great because I'm experimenting so much right now with you for the rest of the content. Few tips as a goodbye for entrepreneurs and for the ones that are helping entrepreneurs.
Related to the networking and trying to build your network, right? So it's very important that you have a clear purpose and a clear, let's say, definition of what you want to accomplish with your company, right? Because one of the things that we have learned the most about when approaching someone, an advisor or someone to help you, is that they connect not just with what you need right now, the problem that you have right now, but also with the purpose of your company. It's going to be a lot easier to get more people to help you. It's going to be easier to explain to people about what you're doing. And I think it's very important. Once you have that clear idea, it's very important that you have a clear mindset or a clear idea of what are the challenges and the actions that you're taking at the moment, right? What is the present that you're having, right? Because sometimes you can go in these meetings with an advisor and telling them, okay, this is my concept, this is my idea. But it's very important also to tell them, this is what I'm doing right now. These are the actions that I'm thinking next week, right? And this is the challenges that I have. If you have those 2 things clear, then after 1 or 2 minutes of the first meeting, the advisor is going to be giving you actionable advice right away, right?
That's
So
hard. That's
that's
very
very
hard.
hard.
We have struggled with it a little bit. That's a
Yeah,
skill to
exactly.
develop for sure.
And I think that's one of the things that we have developed the most, actually, with the NetMind solution as well, right? How to help entrepreneurs first explain better the purpose of the company, but also how I think that's the hardest part. When someone asks you, "What do you need?"
Yeah,
We
you can
look
always.
like blank, like like our mind is like that. So I think that's one of the most challenging parts, but it's one of the ones that we want to help the most. How to understand what is your current challenge, what is your current need.
And for the ones who are helping entrepreneurs, what would you say it's needed?
There's an amazing thing is the open mind is very important in this case, and I think we have had the fortune that every single person that has been an advisor in NetMinds has had an open mind always, right? There's something interesting there, because every person that comes, it's like, I thought that this was the scope, that I was just gonna give advice to one person and that was it. But it's also about learning. I was learning so much from each one of those interactions. And the reason for that was because they were open-minded.
Right.
If they were closest minded, only, okay, I'm gonna give advice to this person, I'm gonna share my knowledge, and that was it. But actually, the amazing part is it's not just about sharing knowledge, but also about being open and being very eager to learn more. Because every time that you share your knowledge, you first validate that what you're like, that your knowledge and your skills are good, but also you start learning a lot from the other person's view about the words that you're saying.
Yeah, and I think helping others, it's an exercise of learning as well, to reflect on the other person's views and questions and all of those things. Chris, thank you very much. This is definitely a great exercise for us. And it feels a little bit weird that we're sort of like creating content ourselves, but I'm loving it. And yeah, I'll see everyone else in 2 weeks with another interview about something specific. It could be social media, it could be online payments. You tell me what would you like to see. And yeah, thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.